All right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. It is May 28th, the day after Memorial Day. I hope that you had a wonderful and yet somber Memorial Day. I think that's the way that I'm going to be celebrating it from now on. I was able to visit a local cemetery. I had just missed the event that they had, but luckily they still had people there that had put on the event, and I got to see the crosses of our many soldiers in Florida that gave their lives, that paid the ultimate sacrifice, 95% of which were killed in action. You had about 5% of the crosses that they had at this local cemetery in a place called, right outside of Orlando, called Oviedo, Florida, where they many others or some others had died while they weren't necessarily killed in action. They died while they were active duty. So they had their crosses up as well. And they had some of the soldiers that were buried at that particular cemetery. Most of them were not. They were Florida citizens and or somehow had deep roots within Florida, but vast majority were Florida citizens, Florida residents who paid the ultimate sacrifice. And what they did was they honored all of the soldiers that had been killed in action or died active duty that were Floridians post 9/11, or that they got into the military as a result of 9/11 or after. And man, it was just shocking because they had all of their pictures lined up on the crosses, whether they were killed in action. They had, obviously, if you were killed in action, you received the Purple Heart. There's another medal that I'm ignorant of. I meant to look it up yesterday and I didn't, but it's red. It has a blue stripe. The majority of it is red. It has a blue stripe right down the middle. Forgive me, I'm ignorant on this stuff. But I was so impressed by the American Legion that it set up the event for yesterday and set the crosses up. They had marked literally in the cemetery as well. They had marked all of the headstones of people that they had found out that had served in the military, perhaps hadn't been honored, but they made sure that those grave sites got flowers and got a flag next to them. Just really impressed by that. So I'll be attending that in the future, as long as the Lord has me here. But again, I hope that you had a solemn Memorial Day. Many men and women paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom, and we cannot let their sacrifice be in vain. And that's why I'm going to continue to fight for this country, for the blessings of this country. I want to do this right off the bat. And by the way, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. We're on Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Wherever I am on social media, at the Carl Jackson Show is where you can go to find me. And then don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. All right. So at the Carl Jackson Show is where you subscribe to the podcast. I've got a lot of headlines that I'm just going to bring to you really fast. It's a busy but slow news day, if that makes sense. So a lot of headlines that bled over from last week or the end of last week. Many new headlines today. So I'm just going to go through them quickly, and then I'm going to get into a topic. I read a column over the weekend from The Blaze, America's Hidden Supply Crisis and Educated Workforce. And this person, and I did not write down the name of the author, but makes a compelling case. Conservatives, and I'm one of them, that often say, you know what, screw these colleges. This person makes the case that college needs to be reformed, but not necessarily tossed to the side. And I think they make a good case, and it's worth bringing up because there is obviously we have China and other countries around the world that are now stepping it up when it comes to science, when it comes to, technology, when it comes to math. And these are the things that Americans need to be stepping up in, and rather than DEI. So we'll get to that main topic. And again, we got a lot of, from the people that were killed, sadly, as a result of the storms. We got the Trump case that's happening today, closing arguments that are beginning today. I'm gonna comment on all of those things. So we're gonna do Jackson 5 times 2, and then and we'll get to this headline. And I promise this won't be long, but it will be plentiful. Let's go right to this. So over the weekend, I didn't even hear about this. Because I wasn't paying as much attention to the news over the weekend. I was really having a good time being off from work. I'm never off. And it was only due to irregular circumstances that I literally took. I don't even take holidays off. And honestly, I'm not bragging. That's a sad testimony. I'm not going to lie to you. I work too much in many cases. But it was nice to have some days off, regardless of why I needed to take the days off. And I just binged on automobile shows, basically car shows, or it's what I really like, just escaping things and ridiculousness too. I'm not going to lie. I love laughing. So ridiculousness is one that I can't stand when they put the drag queens on there. They've been doing that lately. That really stinks. But anyway, having said that, let's go right to these videos. I got a few videos that Gabe has got lined up for us. This is Representative Byron Donalds. He's responding basically to Joy Reid of MSNBC, calling him a token. I'm going to respond to that. And I actually think the more that I think about why Joy Reid would do that, besides the fact that she probably does believe that, being a communist, but I want to respond to that. But it makes sense that she would do that even more so and double down on that in an election year. But let's go ahead and roll this video, and then we got more Chuck U. Schumer talking about giving away the bag, so to speak, or saying the quiet part out loud. Yes, they want illegal immigration. They want to make all of these illegal citizens ultimately. But anyway, lots of news. All right, let's get to it, Gabe.
I find Joy's comments to be nothing more than crabs in a barrel. Just because I have a different viewpoint, different way of looking at the world, different politics, now all of a sudden I'm being used. You can make an argument that MSNBC is using her, but I'm going to move on. The rally in the Bronx was amazing. You had a very diverse crowd, people from the Bronx, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, black people, white people, all there supporting President Trump because they've seen the disaster that is New York City. They've seen the disaster that has come to the United States of America because of the master of disaster, Joe Biden himself, and they want Donald Trump back. I heard what my colleague said in a previous segment. This is going to be a decision. It's going to be a decision for the American people between two presidents who did the better job. And it is without question Donald Trump was a significantly better president on every metric. That's why he has support in the Bronx. That's why when the president went to Minnesota, he had support in Minnesota. And there's more support in a lot of blue areas. That is for President Trump coming back. So we're looking at expanding the political map, not shrinking it based upon race or anything else, because that's what Joy Reid and Joe Biden and the rest of them want to do. They want to shrink the political map based upon previous dogma and racial lines. That is not what President Trump's focus is. His focus is on all of America.
All right, so there you have Byron Donalds responding to MSNBC's Joy Reid, who basically did call Byron Donalds a token she's the one, or she said the one black guy that Republicans love to roll out. Speaking of Representative Byron Donalds, and when I thought about this, or the more that I think about this, here's what I think. Joy Reid is the attack dog for the Democrat Party. First, let's get something straight. You should understand this. I don't take any black seriously that calls a black Republican an Uncle Tom, a sellout, a token. You're speaking about a party, the Democrat Party, that many blacks vote for, that created or founded the KKK, a terrorist organization to terrorize black and white Republicans. You're talking about the party that imposed Jim Crow laws across the South. You talk about a party, the Democrat Party. Joy Reid supports this party that literally LBJ, FDR both said when it came to the welfare program, we will have these N-words voting for us for 100 years. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what both of them said. They replaced the black father with welfare in the hood, and now you got a poverty-stricken community, except for people like Joy Reid, who only got to Harvard or to whatever Ivy League institution she went to, admittedly because of her skin color. And she, in my opinion, and I don't say this to try to be as nasty as she is, I believe it's true. I believe that she's the attack dog for the white communists. on the left. I believe she's the token black woman. And I'm not saying that because I want to go tit for tat. I honestly believe that's true. I believe that's what she's being used for. Now, Byron Donalds didn't go there all the way, but that's basically what he insinuated. He could make the case, as I'm making the case, that MSNBC is using her as an attack dog against people like Byron Donalds. So why? The answer is really simple. Byron Donalds hit the nail on the head. He went to that Bronx rally. Do you have any idea how that must scare the living bejeebers out of the left, out of the Democrat Party? I say that as someone who isn't buying this idea that Trump is going to get 30% of the black vote. I do believe, as I've said many times, that he is going to get more than he did get. He got 8% his first go round. He got 12% his second go round. I could see Trump getting anywhere from 15 to 20% of the black vote this go round, and that is what the left is scared of. So, what does Joy Reid attempt to do? Joy Reid, what she attempts to do is basically shame black people. Basically shame us. Oh man, you're a token if you vote for a Republican. So just to be clear, let's end it this way. Joy Reid wants black people to vote against their best interests. It's as simple as that. That Bronx rally, that rally in the South Bronx that Trump held, the people, so many people that were interviewed, blacks, Latinos, it was the economy. Right? It was crime. It was illegal immigration. So Joy Reid is saying, no. Because of your black skin, you got to stick with the Democrat Party. You got to stick with the Democratic Party. You can't vote for your best interest, says a rich black woman. And Gabe, let's be real. I wonder where she gets her wig. I wonder where that's made. I mean, is she selling out to communist China? Are they making her wigs? I want to know. All right. So anyway, let's move on. Next, Chuck U. Schumer, as Rush lovingly called him before his passing. This is Senator Chuck Schumer giving away, saying the quiet part out loud, basically admitting that yes, they're inviting all the illegal aliens in because they want them to be permanent residents, permanent citizens, if you will. So here's Chuck Schumer admitting, even though he lied about the numbers, he's still saying 11 million when we all know it's probably more close to triple that number. But here's Senator Chuck Schumer on the Hill talking about illegal aliens and what the Democrat Party wants to do with illegal aliens. You know, something that we've been saying, those of us on the right, for a very long time. Let's roll it, por favor, Gabe.
Now more than ever, we're short of workers. We have a population that is not reproducing it on its own with the same level that it used to. The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers, and all of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented there are here.
Okay, so here's what I find laughable about that. And I posted this on X, so I encourage you guys in the listening audience to please check out my X account. Check out all of my social media at The Carl Jackson Show. But Democrats are an absolute disaster. So Chuck U. Schumer, he wouldn't have to admit, and the Democrat Party wouldn't have to try to kiss the behinds of illegal aliens if they would simply abandon their advocacy for abortion and encourage their own constituents, their own voters, to have their children instead of killing them. If they would stop with this trans hysteria, this trans nonsense. We learned last week from a study. Actually, I learned quite some time ago, but there was another. I guess everybody learned last week that people that have these surgeries, these trans surgeries, are 12 times as likely to commit suicide or to attempt suicide. So if they would stop with the trans propaganda, if they would stop with the abortion advocacy, if they would stop, with the welfare programs where daddy can leave the mother or mother can leave the daddy, and instead they would have to be, work together in order to support their child, then they wouldn't have to worry about bringing illegal aliens into the country to vote for them. If they would stop with the climate change hysteria, you've got Pete Buttigieg out there claiming that climate change is the reason for what do you call that, turbulence. Absolutely insane. But this is what the left does. See, these people are completely incompetent. They don't deserve to be in office. They are completely inept at their job. And I really think that the Pete Buttigiegs of the world, the Democrats, the left, the commies, part of the reason why I think about this. This hit me this morning. Part of the reason why I think they love big government so much, beyond the fact that they want a socialist type state, is it gives them a security blanket, even if they're incompetent. And I think that's the case with Pete Buttigieg. You want a big bureaucracy that you can blame on anything, or that you can rely on when you don't know how to do your job. It is obvious that no one in the Biden administration is capable or should have the jobs that they have. Pete Buttigieg being one of them. Also, a couple more headlines. I want to get to this. Actually, let's go ahead and hit this Nikki Haley video. Now, guys, Nikki Haley and Trump are making amends from a distance. Eventually, I'm sure they'll come together, perhaps be in the same venue. Nikki Haley came out last week, as you may recall, and said, that ultimately she would be voting for Donald Trump over Joe Biden, even though, she felt like she was the best candidate of all. She chose, she felt that Donald Trump was far better than Joe Biden. She basically makes the same case. She made a trip to Israel, I believe, over the weekend, and so she made the same case there. And many people are saying, "Listen, we need to bring Nikki Haley's voters into the fold." Listen. I already think that the vast majority of Nikki Haley's voters are coming into the fold. There's a story out that one of the reasons there's some big backers coming on board, some big donors coming behind Donald Trump now, that said that they weren't, one billionaire in particular, I forget his name, that is saying they are going to back him, as well as down ballot races as well, which I'm so thankful to hear. I think these people are going to come on board. And quite frankly, I don't believe that Nikki Haley has the following that many people believe. I'm not saying that to knock her. Let's just be honest about it. When Nikki Haley was winning some of these northeastern states, Ron DeSantis had already gotten out of the race out of Idaho, because he knew he didn't stand a shot in these on these open primary states where Nikki Haley did, where a lot of Democrats were crossing over for her in order to disrupt the Republican primary. All right. And so now we see, all right, well, she's got this continuation, 10, 15% of people are voting other, or apparently voting for Nikki Haley. I think they're only doing that because she stayed in the race longer, and she was the anti-Trump vote for longer. So essentially, people just remembered Nikki Haley as more people started to pay attention. But I don't believe that Nikki Haley has the support now. I do believe she has more support now because more people know her name. And I think that was the intention all along, because she did not have a lot of support. But having said that, it appears that she and former President Donald Trump are making amends. I hope to God that she isn't the vice president. I really do. I'm sorry, guys. This isn't the time for moderation. This is the time for people that love the Constitution, that are willing to restore the Constitution and willing to fight for it. There's areas of foreign policy that I disagree with Nikki Haley. There's areas where I'm sure I agree with Nikki Haley. But Nikki Haley is a moderate at best. And I'm sorry, we're fighting communists, and I don't have time for that. But nonetheless, here's Nikki Haley talking about Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, admittedly, in another piece of audio, I didn't get that up, but another piece of audio, Donald Trump over the weekend, or after the Bronx rally, basically last week, saying, there'd be a place for her on my team. But here's Nikki Haley in Israel. Let's go ahead and roll it, por favor, Gate.
Smart politics is to make sure you're not personal, right? And so I've always been able to take the emotion and the personal part out of politics, because that's the only way you can do the right thing. When you start to get personal, when you start to get emotional, that's when you're not making good policy. This is all about policy. And when you look at the policies of the two, I very much am on one side. It's not even close. We sparred in a campaign. If I thought either one of them was great, I wouldn't have run. I ran because I thought I could do a better job. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's not personal for me. This is about America. It's about a strong America. It's about a strong Israel. It's about having the backs of our friends. It's about holding our enemies to account. We had a strong America. That was the goal. The goal was to make sure we knew who our friends were and we knew who our enemies were. And I think the reason that he and I worked together well during that time was because he let me do my job, which was to call out our enemies, but we never forgot our friends, which is why we stood with Israel. And all you have to do is look at the fact that, you know, he moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem and acknowledged the truth. He allowed me to defund UNRWA. When we went and tried to go and condemn Hamas and name them a terrorist organization, he let me put that resolution forward. The last thing I want to do is come to Israel and talk about American politics. What I do want to do is come to Israel and make sure that the American people see what I see, hear what I hear, and understand the one flaw that I will say of Republicans and Democrats in America is they're not telling Americans why they should care about Israel. They're not telling Americans why they should care about Ukraine. They're just making the decision and allowing Americans to hear it in sound bites. That's not, Americans are smart. When you give them the information, when you tell them why they need to care, they do.
All right, so I actually agree with Nikki Haley there. Whether you're for the Russia-Ukraine war or not, whether you're for Israel fighting Hamas, I am. All right, Russia and Ukraine, I just feel like that needs to come to an end. I don't feel like that's going to get any better. I think there needs to be a ceasefire reached there. I don't think there should be a ceasefire in Rafah. And I'm sorry that I'm sorry that some more civilians were killed, but we all know that Hamas places civilians in the way purposely so that Israel will be blamed for casualties, for civilian casualties, and the world will turn against them, as we see many in the West doing. But Israel is our only ally in the Middle East. That is practically speaking, spiritually speaking, I believe they're on our side. You don't have to have the same worldview that I have, but just pragmatically, they are our only ally in the Middle East. You have a bunch of people that voted for Hamas. These are the casualties of war. Israel is the only country that I know of that will warn their enemies to get out of the way before they blow up their buildings. So listen, these are the casualties of war. It's sad. I want Israel to annihilate Hamas, and that will never change in my mind. Okay, just a few more headlines that I want to get into. Obviously, you have the closing arguments in the Trump hush money case today. It appears as though Joe Biden is slated to make a statement on that in order. I mean, that's all they can do. Joe Biden has absolutely nothing to run on. So his only mission is going to be to, hey, make sure you hate Donald Trump. Oh, Donald Trump is a criminal. Oh, Donald Trump is going to trial. Now, never mind the fact that Joe Biden is a criminal. Never mind that his son is going to trial in September. Never mind the fact that he was the big guy. Never mind the fact that Joe Biden was taking documents illegally when he shouldn't have, as the vice president and also as senator. He didn't have the authority to do so. And the special counsel said, yeah, if he weren't so mentally deteriorated, I would prosecute him, is basically what he said. And frankly, I don't think Joe Biden should have gotten off from well, I guess so. As president at this point, he's president. However he got there, he's president now. So I guess at this point, you should. But that's going to be the goal of the Biden administration. And you have this Judge One Merchant that, from all accounts, any credible attorneys. I'm looking at a headline from Breitbart, are saying this is a sham trial. No one knows what this guy is going to be is being charged with still. All right, so Trump sham trial closing arguments today. Fixes in. Merchant lets prosecution basically make gets the last word in the closing arguments. So closing arguments will begin today in Manhattan, in the Manhattan business records trial for Donald Trump. The defense will give their closing arguments first, with Democrat New York City District Attorney Alvin Bragg's team going second. The closing arguments could stretch into a second day, which would be tomorrow. Biden will reportedly make the statement from the White House to show that it isn't political, which is absolutely insane. He's reportedly planning statements on the outcome, whether Trump is convicted or not. He will reportedly argue, if Trump is convicted, that there should not be a convicted felon as president, but is preparing for a barrage of criticism from Republicans and Trump if he is acquitted. And quite frankly, I don't think it matters. Everybody knows that the fix is in. I think most people realize that the fix is in. And quite frankly, when people are now saying that McDonald's is a luxury, like we're living in the 60s and 70s, that isn't going to matter as much because too many people believe the fix is in. Another headline that I wanted to share with you, the Daily Wire reported that, man, I lost it. Oh, actually, here's another one. Chicago, at least 31 shot through Sunday on Memorial Day. So there's another headline. Things didn't calm down in the city of Chicago. So 31 people shot, 5 of them fatally Friday through Sunday. So things aren't getting better there. This is what people are seeing. This is what's causing people. People are seeing the rise in crime. Crime isn't getting any better. You have this young actor, 37 years of age in Hollywood. Was it Hollywood over the weekend that was shot? It was in Los Angeles that was shot. He's an actor on a soap opera, 37 years of age, walking out to his car, witnessed some cats stealing his catalytic converter. Didn't realize that's what was going on at the time. And he said, "Are you guys towing my car?" Apparently, that's when one of the criminals got up and he backed up, put his hands, kind of covering the woman that was with him, I believe a friend, if I recall correctly. And then he takes bullets to basically he takes bullets. They just shoot the guy, shoot and kill him. 37 years old, man. This is what's happening in blue cities. That's why people are tired of this nonsense. All right, the Libertarian Party introduced their candidate or chose their candidate. I believe it's a guy named Chad Oliver, used to be on Barack Obama's team. He caused some disruption in the Georgia senatorial race between Herschel Walker and Senator Raphael Warnock. I think he got 2% of the vote. A lot of people believe that clinched the race for Senator Raphael Warnock against Herschel Walker. He's the nominee. This is after the Libertarian Party over the weekend at their convention, I believe it was, basically shunned Donald Trump, booed him. Donald Trump, you guys heard, hey, you're only getting 3% of the vote. Okay, stay that way. But I really think it's important for Donald Trump to go to places like that. Listen, there's going to be a lot of people that aren't necessarily members of the Libertarian Party. Maybe they paid attention to that convention, and maybe they'll say, man, this guy had the courage to go there. I actually believe what he's saying. Maybe he'll pick off a few. I don't know. I really think this bodes badly for the Libertarian Party. I think they'll do worse this year. I really do. I think it was a really stupid move. And at least if you're going to invite the candidates there, I understand many people didn't want them to be there. Be grown-ups. Just let the people talk, finish their speech, and move on. It's unbelievable to me. RFK Jr. Spoke there. He got a bit of a better reception than Trump did, but in the end, they didn't want him as well. So that is that. All right, I want to just make sure that there's nothing that I'm missing that I should make mention of. Let's see. All right, I mentioned Pete Booty talking about climate change and turbulence. U.S. Admiral cautions of foreign nationals attempting to infiltrate military bases. There was a story that I read over the weekend on Red State by Jennifer Van Laar. I think I'll speak about that at some point this week. Guys, there's just so much. Sometimes I'm like, I'm going to talk about this. And then news hits and I'm like, what do I pick? What do I choose? But it looks as though it's possible that there are like Russian mercenaries or Russian hit squads that are checking out or spying on some of our special ops troops. There was a story in North Carolina where one of our special ops troops had to shoot this guy that happened to be an illegal alien. I think he was from Chechnya, if I'm not mistaken. But it is a sordid story. But I'll bring you more of that. University of North Carolina System Board of Governors votes to dismantle DEI practices, and I'm glad of that. That coincides with what I'm about to share with you shortly here. All right, and what else? All right, I think that's pretty much it. Senator Chuck Schumer, we already touched on that. But anyway, a lot of headlines today. But anyway, let's move into this. All right, so here's a story that I read over the weekend from The Blaze: America's hidden supply crisis and educated workforce. So I've been one of these people. I didn't finish going to college. I went to community college and I almost finished a couple of years, but I decided to leave college and I decided to fight for custody of my daughter. That was just a very stressful time in my life. I was a young guy, but I wanted to be a father. It was just too hard to try to balance work, to try to balance a custody battle, especially when you're broke and doing some of the legwork. The attorney was kind enough, or her staff was kind enough, to allow me to do some of the legwork so that I could afford a better family attorney, definitely one that I couldn't have afforded otherwise. So I made the choice to fight for my daughter. But also, one of the things that frustrated me at the time, I'm not going to lie, I got a F in one of the classes that I didn't get an F in. I got an A in. It was like American history, but I was so bad at technology, I wasn't uploading my test scores properly. So I got like I literally got A's and B's in in everything when it came to American history. I'm not saying that to brag. It's so true. And then I got an F because the professor at the end of the semester said, "Well, you never took your quarterly exams or your whatever exams those were." And I was like, "What are you talking about? I took every single one of them." And he was like, "Well, you never logged them in." And I was like, "What?" I mean, unbelievable. So that drove me nuts. That made me so mad. I didn't want to go back to college after that. Even though I was like, after the custody battle, I didn't want to go back after that. That made me so mad. But it was my fault. I should have asked for help. Uh, but anyway, maybe I'll go back one day. I don't know. But anyway, this column makes a good argument. Let me just read you the summary. And basically, the gist of it is this. All right. A lot of conservatives, including myself, we see all of this nonsense happening across these college campuses, especially Ivy League and the more prestigious universities. And we're like, enough is enough. We don't need to be funding these things. There should be no federal funding. It should only be STEM. And matter of fact, maybe we should shut down some of these universities. And quite frankly, I do believe there's a lot of universities and colleges that need to be shut down. And I think they would be, because I don't think there needs to be as many college students. But I think this article may have convinced me that there should be college students. All right. So here's the summary. In tomorrow's interconnected world, the role of education in shaping a country's ability to compete on the global stage cannot be overstated. A well-educated workforce is a prerequisite to any American company's ability to drive the innovation and the productivity needed to compete on the global stage. So when you think of these corporations, and I know we can't stand a lot of them, but nonetheless, American corporations, when you think of them, they need an educated workforce, not only to fill positions, but to drive innovation and productivity. That's one of the reasons why I hate DEI and CRT. I believe that we've moved past a racist America for quite some time. You're always going to have racism. You're always going to have some racist people, but that isn't the norm. That isn't the majority of the population. In fact, I would argue that it is a decreasing part of the population. But they talk about how companies need innovation and productivity needed to compete on the global stage while improving economic prosperity and social well-being at home. So these companies they hire smart people. They hire people that can do the job. These people get paid well, and they help build the economy, not only in their own communities, but as they spend more money, that benefits you and I. So America has an increased demand for educated employees. The problem is we don't have the supply. We've got too many dumb people. I mean, it really comes down to that. He says, we hear Ivy League educated pundits sporting or railing against intelligentsia and the elitists. Could be a female. I didn't write down the name of the author. We witnessed congressmen grilling university presidents as if they were enemies of the state. As parents revolt against school boards, donors threaten to defund universities. Tech entrepreneurs like Peter Thiel toss around incentives for our youth to just say no to post-secondary education. Our country's values clearly have changed. And they're absolutely right. I do feel like more of our values have changed and are changing, but I don't think necessarily that we throw college away. I think we do what we see Ron DeSantis and Christopher Rufo and others doing in the state of Florida. They've built this, I think it's called First College or something like that, basically to emulate Hillsdale College. I do think we should do stuff like that. Florida University, you can see how former Senator Ben Rhodes had that on lock when it came to the campus protest. Hey, man, this isn't we're not a daycare. We're not babysitting you guys. So I think we need places where people can go, smart people can go to be a part of the workforce that is going to continue to produce and continue to innovate. But it's got to be absent of DEI. And the problem is, again, we have this demand for educated employees, and companies do, but there just isn't the supply. And I don't think it helps the DEI and CRT. He says parents from all over the planet still dream of sending their children here to the United States for the finest education possible. He says, in contrast, a recent Wall Street Journal article addressed, quote, why Americans have lost faith in the value of college. While one cannot discount challenges facing our academic institutions today and the barriers to education, we must not let inertia and polarization take over our ability to improve the system. And I do agree with that, because you got to figure a lot of people are still going to go to college. People are still going to go to government schools. How do we make them better? All right. He says many articles today point to a dramatic increase in the cost of college education. They point out that the average cost to attend college in 1980 was approximately $10,000 a year, but few complete the analysis to show that the comparison in today's dollars would nearly be $40,000, or that the minimum wage in 1980 was just over $3 an hour. And all of that is true, but let's not forget that the cost of college started skyrocketing, particularly after the Obama administration got rid of any private lending. It's all government lending. And so now you have all of these degrees in the humanities and so on that are absolutely not needed and unnecessary. And so a lot of people are paying for college that shouldn't pay for college, and it's making the rates, or the college rates, grow even faster. All right. So he talks about college discount rates. He says, meanwhile, college discount rates at some of the finest schools have increased to between 40 to 50%. In other words, the $80,000 sticker price at many of our most prestigious institutions equates to nearly half that amount being paid by the average student. But yeah, I think they're willing to discount a lot of students because I think there's a lot of social justice nonsense going on, quite frankly. The columnist writes, this is a result of the increasing generosity of donors, building huge endowments that can help fund discounts to underprivileged students. So they argue the cost of attending college isn't necessarily prohibitive, but the cost of a quality education is too high for many. And he says we can help students overcome this obstacle by making them aware of the scholarships and helping to provide access to financial aid. Again, I'm for this as long as we eliminate DEI and CRT. I'm all for helping those that deserve to go to college, for one, those that are underprivileged and can't afford to go to college, or poor, they can't afford to, if their test scores say so. All right, another obstacle besides the cost, our students just simply aren't prepared for a college education. He talks about the English language proficiency deficit and early learning programs that have become a much greater challenge as the population has grown more diverse. Basically, we have more illegals and different people coming into the country. Increased urbanization, a dramatic decrease in two-parent households, and a host of other societal changes created new problems. Actually, it created dumber students. You don't have a father in the home telling their son or their daughter they better get their homework done. That kind of stuff makes a difference. I know people don't want to talk about it, but that's simply the truth. And we should be making English our first language. We should also seal the border, regardless of what Chuck Schumer says, wanting to, saying the ultimate goal is basically to make all of these illegal citizens. No, that shouldn't happen. We shouldn't have overcrowded classrooms. The population grows more diverse. To me, that just means illegal immigration. But globally, American students are performing in the middle of the pack when it comes to reading, when it comes to science, and they're performing even worse when it comes to math compared to some of the top countries. He says post-secondary graduation rates are down, especially among males. Meanwhile, other developed countries have increased their emphasis on education and have shown steady improvement in PISA scores and graduation rates. And there is a point here, right? Because China is trying to overtake us. Look at what they're doing with TikTok. When we use TikTok, it's to dumb us down. When Chinese people use TikTok over in China, it's a totally different game. They use TikTok in order to educate the children in their country. So U.S. companies are increasingly turning to foreign nationals to hire them because they prepare better prepared for professional roles. So maybe it isn't just an argument over finances. It's that they come in prepared to work. They come in prepared to do the job. They say, for example, in the column, roughly 1 in 4 physicians and surgeons practicing in the U.S. are foreign born. While there may be many reasons for this trend toward foreign born professionals in our workforce, that really scares me too when you consider the people at UCLA Medical Center. People can't even pass tests there. I'm scared, foreign born people, maybe they have different ideas. I don't know. Have they assimilated into America? That's what I want to know. American companies are losing their ability to compete globally, and that's going to be important. He said, and I saw that this was very interesting. I didn't realize this, but he says, I saw this from the helm of both 7-Eleven and Blockbuster over 20 years ago. So we all just thought their time had passed, and there's still 7-Elevens everywhere. But he said they struggle to fill the jobs needed to manage thousands of stores across the country. And so a lot of those stores were forced to basically close a lot sooner, I guess, than they would have. As with any supply chain problem, the columnist writes, I believe that corporations will ultimately rise to the challenge. So America has to leverage advancements and technology is what they're arguing instead of running away from technology. He says, we got to leverage them. Technology has been able to help us completely reinvent other aspects of American life, from the way we buy groceries to the way we communicate. I do think there should be a limit when it comes to our children because we're dumbing our children down. I think people got to be able to communicate with each other, right? In the workforce and so on, et cetera. Especially children. I just think there's no manners. All they're doing is looking at screens. Not all of them, but many of them are. And he talked about, listen, one of the benefits from COVID was that technology actually progressed 20 years. I'm not sure if that's a benefit, but obviously this gentleman sees that as a benefit. But nonetheless, it's here. And so we have to be able to make sure that we can harness that with some educated or educated people, as we would say in higher learning, with some educated people that can handle the technology, but also some moral people. I believe that technology and morality have to go hand in hand or it'll get out of control. So for those of us that are conservatives, I think we need to be making the case for a constitutional, a Christ-based society, Judeo-Christian society. That's the only way that we can handle some of this growth. He talked about such urgency when it came to the lockdowns accelerated students' access to technology by 20 years. That's what I just mentioned. This near-term capability is present today, and students have free unlimited access to tools like Khan Academy to bolster their in-class learning. Here's something that I'll close with. An important next step is to encourage corporations to assess the cost benefit of investment in public education. In other words, corporations should consider support for public schools as an investment, not philanthropy. Companies can find a measurable return on their investment in public schools by reducing recruiting and training costs if they improve access to an educated workforce. I think this is so true. I think this is I do think there's an argument to be made here. It's funny because I do believe that both of our sponsors today fit into this category and into this story. Guys, I do want to remind you, Mike Lindell, MyPillow, right now, the shopping stores, they've canceled them. Big box stores, they've canceled them. But, who knows? Maybe some of these graduates will go to work for him. But right now, there's a $25 extravaganza. All you have to do is go to mypillow.com, click on that radio square, enter my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, or give them a call, 800-858-0263. From dish towels to my sandals to the MyPillow with Giza fabric, just $25. And then don't forget, wealth protection research. I mean, at the very heart of our democracy lies a principle that we all hold sacred. That is free speech. It's the cornerstone that supports every freedom that we cherish, allowing ideas to flourish, debates to ignite, and progress to be made. Without it, our pursuit of liberty, our ability to challenge, and our capacity to innovate would be severely constrained. That is so true. It's so funny because this does tie in, man, our ability to be able to innovate, to be able to produce. It's tied into free speech. This is why we have to have Americans that believe in our Constitution, that believe in our Bill of Rights. Wealth protection research goes on. Yet in today's digital age, the very platform that should democratize information is being used to narrow the spectrum of ideas we're exposed to. Important discussions about our wealth, our rights, and our future are being systematically silenced or overshadowed in mainstream narratives, leaving many feeling voiceless in conversations that are crucial to our financial independence and our security. This is where Wealth Protection Research steps in. They're armed with a mission that's never been more critical. Wealth Protection Research is not a financial advisory firm. They're defenders of free speech, committed to giving a voice to the silence in an era where dialogues about retirement, investments, and economic freedoms are increasingly censored. So Wealth Protection Research is focused on ensuring that diverse, controversial, and revolutionary ideas have a platform. Wealth Protection Research tirelessly seeks out the financial experts, the thought leaders, and the trailblazers who have been pushed to the margins by mainstream media and tech platforms like Facebook and Google. These are the voices that challenge prevailing narratives, offering fresh, often contrarian perspectives on protecting and growing your wealth, especially as we navigate the uncertainties of the 2024 election. So by spotlighting these thinkers like Jim Rickards and Porter Stansberry, Wealth Protection Research is not just sharing financial advice, they are fostering a movement towards a more open, informed, and a free society. Wealth Protection Research has created, listen to this, a 2024 Election Wealth Protection Report. This free report highlights the 3 best ideas for protecting and growing your money heading into the 2024 election. It contains ideas the mainstream media won't touch, and listeners can get it completely free. All you have to do is text the words ideas to 76626. Again, text the word ideas, IDEAS, to 76626. Plus, if you text that word ideas to 76626 today, you'll get a free gold investment kit from Wealth Protection Research that is sponsored by Augusta Precious Metals. Text the word ideas to 76626. All right, so again, maybe the case for college isn't to abolish college, but it is to reform them, to make more Hillsdale colleges around the world, get rid of DEI, get rid of CRT, because with the advancement in technology, whether we like it or not, we advance, according to this gentleman, approximately 20 years with the COVID lockdowns. We've got to have an educated populace that can take on the challenges. But I got to tell you, we've got to have a moral populace as well. That's where the Carl Jackson Show comes in. That's where you guys come in. All right, guys, so let's keep the faith. Let's keep fighting for the Judeo-Christian principles of this country. Let's keep fighting for the Constitution to restore it to the Bill of Rights, individualism. And until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you.